Alright, so just a quick update on my system. This is around the nitrification cycle. Bad news, about 3 weeks into this process, and I haven't noticed a change in my ammonia nitrite or nitrate levels at all. Well, I guess that's not true. I added some ammonia to the system after adding this 25 gallons worth of water for my deep water culture bed. It diluted the ammonia level significantly, and so I added some, and in fact I think I added a little. I was a little overzealous. This guy is dark in the 8 parts per million range, so I added a ton, and if there were fish in the tank that would have been a lethal dose. I think they would have died. But as there's not, I don't think there's any danger in having quite a bit of of ammonia in the system. I think that's just extra food for the nitrifying bacteria. I don't think they'll care at all. I don't think having too much of it will hurt them. I hope not. I'll look online to make sure, but I think that's the case. So at any rate, 3 weeks in, I would have expected to at least have started noticing some small changes, like maybe not a ton. I know the ammonia can be released into the air from the system. So even if that drops, I'm not. That's not necessarily an indication that everything's working. And similarly, the nitrite levels may or may not. Even in a completely functioning system, you might never see any nitrites in your system. Once it's cycled, any nitrite that's created will hopefully be consumed immediately by the nitrate creating bacteria, excreting bacteria. So in a properly working system, you probably won't ever see ammonia at all or nitrite at all. You'll only see and if you don't have enough plants, you'll see an increasing amount of nitrate. If you have too many plants or the right number of plants, then the nitrate will be pretty much gone. But all the time, the plants will be consuming it at the same rate that it's being generated. And if that's the case, then you have a well-balanced system. You have the right number of plants, and you're putting in the right amount of fish food and stuff. So, but anyway, I'm not seeing that happen. And there are a couple reasons that might be, and I'm having a little trouble finding, detailed advice and information on what might be happening and what should be happening and that kind of thing. So, but I know that some bacteria prefer things to be warm, or at least not cold. Like, part of the reason that putting food in the refrigerator is good for keeping it fresh longer is that if there is any bacteria in it, their growth, their spread will be stunted by dropping the temperature to near freezing. Now, this is of course not getting close to freezing. We're in the summer, and we're in the water's in the 80s most days by sunset. But then I'm noticing that in the morning, though, the overnight temperature drops significantly. It's 50s and 60s at night here. So when I come out in the morning, the water's down to like 65 degrees, where it was this morning, for example. So I've added the heater that came with the commercial tank back there in the corner under the flood drain bed pipe with the little red knob on the top. Anyway, I added that to it. I'm gonna plug it in tomorrow morning, and it's a little tricky to use. There's no temperature gauge on it. There's no temperature setting on it. There's a knob that, clockwise means higher, counterclockwise means lower. So you gotta just turn it to a certain number and then check your thermometer in an hour or two once the water temperature is stabilized. And if it's too hot, you turn it down. If it's too cold, you turn it up until you get it set to the temperature that you want. So that's where I am now. Tomorrow morning I'll get started on that process. I want to keep the water. I don't mind if the water gets into the 80s. That won't kill the bacteria, certainly. But so I'm not going to cool the water when it gets hot, at least not yet. I don't think that's warranted, but I certainly want to keep it a little warmer at night, and so it's a little more stable temperature. So that's the first possibility, is that the cool temperatures are slowing things down, and so I just haven't noticed the change because it hasn't gotten there yet. And in fact, that might be the case regardless of any other data. But anyway, the other problem might be, and this is more drastic, that I used a garden hose to fill an igloo water jug several times, 10 times, I don't know. I'd fill it with water and put in the appropriate amount of vitamin C powder into the water to kill the chloramine and chlorine. And I gotta say that worked immediately and really well. It's a cheap, non-toxic, non-impactful way to remove the chloramine immediately. Now the chlorine would, especially in a system that's constantly rotating like this and aerating like this, the chlorine would gas off pretty quickly, but chloramine is resistant to that. It doesn't gas off much, if at all. So I put in vitamin C to kill that. But anyway, I was using the garden hose with a little spray nozzle attachment to fill up the jug, and then I'd treat it for chlorine, and then I'd dump it in to the system into one of these two beds. And that worked great for filling it. It was easy and whatnot. The thing, though, is that garden hoses sometimes, and I don't know if this one does or not, but sometimes they're coated on the inside to resist mildew and microbes, so that when the water just sets in the hose for days or weeks at a time, that you don't have stuff growing inside. And if that's the case, it's possible that I contaminated the water in my system to such a degree that the bacteria is having a hard time surviving. And if that's the case, man, I don't know. I guess I'm going to have to switch out all the water and just use tap from inside the house, fill a bucket in the shower or something. Or maybe the kitchen sink, it's got one of those extendo flexi hoses for spraying out the sink and stuff, so maybe I can use that. Fill up the jug the same way, put in my vitamin C, and then dump it in. So I don't know. I overzealously added ammonia. It's really dark. I don't know if that's a problem. I don't think it's a problem, but so I mean, if I did that, if it is a problem, then switching the water, I could completely start over with a different, with zero ammonia basically, and add just exactly as much as I want. So I'll do a little reading and see if that's warranted. But first thing I'm going to try, I guess, is just regulating the temperature and see if that happens. Now, additionally, I want to start logging my my readings, my API freshwater kit, test kit readings. Now, like, I'm a little bit colorblind, red-green colorblind. I don't think that's a problem on this because you've got something to compare against directly. And hues, like comparing a hue to another hue, is not a problem for me. It's like identifying that there's red or green in this thing at all to begin with is my problem. So if it's just judging the darkness, is this darker than that one? I'm in pretty good shape on that regard. The problem that I have is these instructions. Let's flip to one of the instructions. Step number 4: read the test results by comparing the color to the solution of the high-range pH color chart. The tube should be viewed in a well-lit area against the white area of the chart. Now, against is my problem. Does he mean against literally touching the surface of the white area, or does it just mean in contrast to the white area of the chart, right? So am I supposed to hold the tube literally touching the chart, or am I supposed to hold it just in front of the chart? If it's touching, I've noticed that because there's less light, you know, when the light hits the white part and reflects back across, or back up through the tube, it lightens the color. Or, you know, the whole thing looks quite a bit lighter. Now, I don't think that's going to change the hue of the color itself, but it will appear lighter, at least a bit lighter than it would if there was not as much light, you know, going through and reflecting back through to your eyes. So, you know, online I haven't been able to find anybody talking about whether they mean touching or not, because it actually makes a pretty big difference, at least to me, to my eyes. For example, let's see if I can get this to stay put. The wind has been a little bit of an annoyance today. It's blowing more than it normally does, but so, like, you see now that tube, it looks a little bit darker blue to me. If I hold it up, it's damn near clear, like it's just this light blue. Dark, light, dark, light, dark, light. So I don't know, and you know, the dark blue, maybe that means it actually is 0.25 ppm or 0.5 ppm, but when I hold it up, you know, with light behind it, it's a 0. So I'm not sure, but the actual number, frankly, does not matter to me at the moment. I don't care if I'm at 0.5 or 1.0 parts per million nitrite. What I want, all I care about is that the value is changing. I want the nitrite level to be increasing. I want the nitrate level to be increasing. I want the ammonia level to be decreasing. So what I've decided to do is that, combining my color blindness and my naivete as to how to actually use this damn test, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start a photo log in static conditions. I'm going to put one of those daylight bulbs, those white light bulbs, in a lamp, and that lamp's going to shine directly on these tubes, and I'm going to hold them not touching the white card, just near a white card, and then I'm going to take a photo using my camera, using this phone, and then I'm going to compare from day to day. And you know, that probably isn't the right approach for using this test kit to get an actual number. But since all I care is that there's a delta, all I care is that the nitrification cycle is actually happening, then I think this way will be better. And then, you know, good news is they'll have a photo log of the chemical levels that I can use as a reference point, so that I can say, well, how was it a week ago? Because maybe from day to day it doesn't change enough to notice. Maybe from week to week it does. So for now, that's my strategy, I think. So I know at some point I'm going to have to change the water in the system regardless, because it's going to be so full of nitrate that it'll mess things up. But by that point I'll have, you know, good levels for all of my, the bacteria should be, you know, coating all my surfaces nice, and you know, there should be plenty of bacteria in the system for that. So so I can just basically suck all the water, siphon all the water out of the system and replace it with chloramine removed water, probably from inside, since I'm scared of the hose outside, and you know, start over and just use that water to water the plants out in the garden, because it'll be full of nitrates, nice fertilizer boost for them. Before I add any fish and plants, I might have to do that 2 or 3 times, in fact, you know, because just because the nitrates have been produced doesn't mean that there's enough bacteria to sustain to keep the system working for a lot of fish, you know. So that's it really. I have checked, minor update, I've noticed that the water is not dripping really onto the patio floor like it was. There's still, if I touch the underside of this screw, I do notice that there's a little bit of water on my fingers, but it's not dripping quickly. It's not leaving a puddle. It's not really draining my system, I don't think. So I'm not terribly concerned. At some point, the next time I have a good reason to take this apparatus off, I'll probably shore that up and make sure that there's no drips coming from anywhere else, and that one specific joint is fixed. But all things considered, I'm pretty happy with how it is. There's nothing, no major leaks anywhere. So this guy's fine. I still need to add the foam raft, and for some reason I just keep procrastinating putting the wrapper on the tank. I'll probably do that tonight. It's just with this wind, it's kind of, the poster board would be flapping around pretty hard. So I ordered an air bubbler, air pump, I guess, and some bubble stones. I think frankly that aeration is not an issue for me with the way the DWC tank drains and stuff. But you can't have too much oxygen in the water, so I'll probably hook that up and at least run it part of the time. Maybe get an oxygenation sensor so that I can tell what my levels are, and run the pump as appropriate. I don't know, we'll see. But can't think of anything else, so sign off for now.